It's a clown show, man. The whole thing.
They might not have even known Tootsie's was a strip club. Maybe they thought they were going to a restaurant.
I said, are you kidding me?
Move your tits! I'm trying to show my graph!
Of all the reasons the executive director of the NFLPA resigned, Lloyd Howell, going to strip clubs for player engagement is one I stand by.
Company morale is a big thing, and improving the PA needs to improve their morale.
If a union leader can't expense his strip club visits, that's an America I don't want to live in. And let's be honest, the Players Union already sounds like a great name for a strip club, and I want to invest in it.
I'm not a play out, just fuck a lot.
I think we have to start this discussion by acknowledging that Pablo Torre is an actual real-life journalist in the classic sense of the word. He's not a clicks guy. He puts in work, he investigates, and provides a counterbalance to the unchecked power and corruption within massive institutions. He's a modern-day Woodrow or Bernstein, and this is his Watergate.
How much can you tell me about Deep Throat?
Not a lot of those guys exist anymore. Pablo is a thorn in the side of the NFL and NFLPA, and that's a rare and extremely valuable role to play, especially in 2025 when journalism usually refers to newsbreakers who are in bed with the leagues they cover. Pablo's reporting and investigation shed light on misconduct in an extremely powerful entity and led to swift change in leadership. I'm going to give you a little synopsis on the recent scandal surrounding the NFL Players Association, why they failed the players, and why its top leaders are now dropping like flies, and why this is the most important decision the players will make as a collective before the next collective bargaining agreement. I'm Brandon Perna. This is That's Good Sports, where the only reporting I do is on my morning bowel movements. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's how I make a living. We just crossed 762,000 subscribers, and once I get to 1 million, the NFL said they are officially going to hire me to take down Pablo Torre. I'm coming for you, Pablo, and I will be on the side of the big corporation. You will not escape my wrath, Pablo. All right, the NFL Players Association is in a little bit of a pickle that could have ripple effects on the league's future. On July 17th, Lloyd Howell stepped down as the executive director after revelation surfaced that he had billed the union for visits to strip clubs, expenses described as player engagement events. The party invites read, "Come pitch a tent at this year's player engagement event." And boy, did they. These included trips to venues in Miami and Atlanta, two of the great strip club capitals of America, although he should have been fired for not including a stop in Tampa and Las Vegas. But I digress. Howell's situation was also complicated by his consulting role at the Carlyle Group, a private equity firm approved to invest in NFL team ownership, which obviously opens up a Pandora's box of conflicts of interest.
Once I found out that Lloyd Howell is working on the side for the Carlyle Group, which is in bed with the arch enemy of the NFL Players Association, I said, are you kidding me?
The ability for owners to allow private equity funds to buy stakes in teams was passed last August. That was a huge change in the NFL's philosophy. Gee, I wonder how that got passed.
Making the rounds, talking to owners, and would mention private equity. I got a polite hell no.
That is, in fact, sound of Lloyd Howell just saying, yeah, when I talk to NFL owners about private equity and whether they would accept private equity, they say hell no. Is this not the literal problem?
So they have some very reputable firms in the mix, which is encouraging.
Lloyd Howell's shouting out some very reputable firms that are in the mix. What firms could those be?
I'm surprised you didn't say including the Carlyle Group.
I am an operating executive at Carlyle Group. I do understand enough to be dangerous when it comes to private equity.
The crazy news is that after Lloyd resigned from his top spot at the NFLPA, he also resigned from his consulting job with the Carlyle Group. Now, if you've been keeping up with this saga, you'll know that Lloyd Howell was hired by the NFLPA in a very suspect process. There was essentially no vetting of Howell, and as Pablo Torre found out, after fucking around, Howell was involved in a scandal in his previous role at Booz Allen Hamilton.
This Booz Allen thing, the largest fraud settlement anybody can remember in American history, $377 million.
No word if he was also boozing out at the strip clubs on the company's dime there. But just days later, former Browns offensive lineman J.C. Tretter, who had recently been appointed the union's chief strategy officer and formerly served as its president, also announced that he is stepping down. Tretter said the timing was wrong, the environment too politicized, and the stress too much for his family. He withdrew from consideration for interim executive director, and stated he no longer had anything left to give after trying to support the union. Tretter came out recently in a sit-down interview and said that he was unaware of the NFLPA's deal to keep a collusion ruling against the NFL secret.
When he did not get a guaranteed contract, I texted D and I called him a loser. And I called him a wuss. I was upset in that moment because I felt like we were missing an opportunity to get guaranteed contracts. If I knew the league was colluding against Russell, I would apologize because I would know there was factors outside his control.
Nobody knew about this shit, really. That is, until Pablo Torre uncovered that 61-page document that revealed the league's general counsel was urging owners to keep players' salaries non-fully guaranteed, specifically quarterbacks.
The 61-page arbitration ruling was to be shared only with league and union lawyers and a handful of senior union and league executives, while the NFLPA considered its next legal move, end quote.
The idea that Tretter was unaware of that ruling is either A, a lie, or B, means he was kept in the dark about a really important matter, and the result of either one of those outcomes should have led to him stepping down, which of course he now has done. Now, the chaos swirling around this whole thing has also raised questions about the union's internal transparency and governance. I hope you're sitting down for this. Unions can be a little corrupt sometimes.
Only Jimmy Hoffa can rejoice at his continued good luck. Honest union members and the general public can only regard it as a tragedy.
Show me Jimmy Hoffa's body! Show me where Jimmy Hoffa is buried, I say! He was a famous corrupt union leader, for the young folks watching.
Snap of a finger, no trucks are moving, nothing's getting shipped cross country, shut down because Jimmy Hoffa wants it. That's a lot of power to wield, and he wielded that power like a blunt instrument.
Expensing a strip club is objectively hilarious, but that wasn't even Howell's funniest move. The coolest, and I mean coolest, shit he did was reportedly he had the Union Facilities Department in their parking garage merge 2 parking spaces into one big space for his very cool Porsche Cayenne Turbo. The spaces were originally numbered 10 and 11, and he asked them to have the number changed to, wait for it, 32, to pay homage to O.J. Simpson. I know what you're thinking. Brandon, you just stole that last line from an old Norm Macdonald bit. No, this is real. This is real. And a man who still worships O.J. Simpson is actually the perfect guy to head the NFL Players Union because, as a player, there is literally nothing you could do that would make that guy blink an eye, bat an eye. Whatever. Even if you secretly love OJ, you tell people you picked 32 because of Marcus Allen, Jim Brown, Franco Harris, pick fucking Tajay Spears for all I care. Literally any other player. The secretive hiring process that led to Howell's appointment and the lack of disclosure regarding his past legal issues and outside consulting gigs is a major red flag for the NFLPA. Withheld information about a collusion grievance and questionable expense reports are a pretty damning insight to what's going on inside the union and maybe gives you an idea of why the Players Association gets routinely dog-walked by the league when it's time to sit down and bargain every single cycle. They're a neutered fucking union's what I'm saying. In the wake of these resignations, the NFLPA Executive Committee is now tasked with naming an interim director who can help restore confidence. Former linebacker Don Davis and Zamir Cobb are among the rumored candidates. Their job will be to rebuild trust, oversee a more open selection process, and prove that the union can effectively represent players in the face of owner pressure. And that's a really important thing for these players. They need representation as labor for the league when it comes to getting fair treatment. Especially when we know in the past that owners have colluded to keep their wages down, with a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink from the NFL's general counsel. While these things might seem like internal drama, they have real-world consequences for the players. The NFLPA's ability to negotiate fair terms on salary guarantees, safety measures, season length, and more depends on strong, credible leadership, something that was clearly non-existent with the last NFLPA head. Players and agents pay dues to be in the union, and as we know now, the money they were pitching in was going straight into a G-string at the Spearmint Rhino. Again, something I support. The Magic Mikes of the world need to get paid too.
There's nothing wrong with going to a titty bar. Some hardworking women in there, and they got bills to pay.
Huh? Oh, they were going to strip clubs with women? Yeah, I don't know about supporting that.
I never went to a strip club for women. I always went to strip clubs for guys.
What?
And that's probably the tamest part of this entire fiasco. The real problem is that their leadership was taking them for fools, keeping them in the dark and violating their trust. At the end of the day, the people that were supposed to represent them worked against their best interests. End of story. All of this could potentially lead to legal action against Treader, maybe Howell. The NFLPA needs strong leadership when it comes time to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement with the NFL, and the current one is set to expire in 6 years. When the union and the league sit down to negotiate, that's when a bunch of things change, like practice rules, the length of the schedule, player safety rules, even smaller stuff like players getting to wear different uniform numbers. It's a huge event that happens once every decade or so, shapes the next 10 years, and if the players go in without a strong leader or leaders to negotiate, they're going to get fucked in 2031 and somehow be playing an 82-game schedule like the NBA. If you recall, the NFL started to insinuate that it could make an 18-game season happen before the next CBA, which we should have all said that's insane. There's no way you can make that change now. But I believe the NFL was banking on guys like Lloyd Howell and J.C. Treader to make that happen through the NFLPA. That's me conjecturing, but you don't start floating that idea if you don't think you can get it wiggled through. I think maybe the most true thing said about this entire situation, though, came from Dominique Foxworth. He referenced how the people in power aren't smarter than us.
One of the things that I learned from CBA negotiations, they aren't smarter than us. Because of like jargon, you start to think that we need somebody else who understands this because this is too complicated for me. It's not. Like, the power of unions come from being able to, or being willing to sacrifice. That willingness to sacrifice comes from the very bottom rung all the way to the top, being involved in every step of the process that they can be involved in, so they walk away feeling confident in the plan. When you're looking at a work stoppage or some unfortunate outcome, all you have is the faith and confidence that you have in each other and in yourself.
Now that sounds like an easy thing to understand or know, but I think everyone gets to a point in life where they realize most people are just trying to get by. And yes, there are tons of smart people who work incredibly hard and possess vast amounts of knowledge in their respective fields. But I'd say over the last decade, I've had many professional interactions where I've been asking myself, shouldn't that guy know more about this thing than I do? The other key thing he said is the power of unions come with being willing to sacrifice. The NFLPA has never been willing to sacrifice anything to achieve what they want. and Howell and Treader were there to keep that par for the course.
Major League Baseball players went on strike 5 times. So they canceled an entire postseason and World Series because the owners were trying to put a salary cap in place. I think back to the Sean Connery line from Untouchables. What are you prepared to do?
Absolutely.
Are you prepared to go on strike if you really want to dig in your heels? I don't think this body of NFL players is going to do that.
Now, none of this shit comes to light without Pablo Torre being an absolute nuisance of a journalist. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Is it the summer of Pablo Torre? It might be the summer of Pablo.
He's also collaborating on this with Mike Florio, and whatever you think of Mike Florio, he's a former lawyer, liar, who knows his stuff and has always been openly critical of the NFL and its dealings in ways that I think other media personalities are afraid to or simply not allowed to do.
Lloyd Howell, I had never heard of him. He comes from a business background. Booz Allen Hamilton. This doesn't sound like a union leader. This sounds like a member of management. If the NFL was going to try to slip someone through unknowingly who would be in bed with the owners, this sounds like the dude.
They're basically together the Woodward and Bernstein of this operation. I'm not sure who Deep Throat is. Maybe that was one of the strippers in Miami.
But I think I see a lot of lawbreakers up in this house.
Fuck you for that.
This is why journalism is good in the most fundamental sense.
Are you kidding me?
It's a check on power. We need real, trained journalists to investigate shady inner dealings within massive institutions and bring them to light for the public to see so corrupt individuals can be held accountable and changes can be made for the better, right? There's a saying that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and that was really the case here.
I returned to Scooby-Doo, and they would have gotten away with it if not for those meddling kids.
Without this work from Torre and Florio, Lloyd Howell and J.C. Treader are still incompetently and corruptly leading the players like the sheep to the slaughter against the juggernaut that is the National Football League and its collective of billionaire owners. Who I side with, by the way? I side with the billionaire owners. To be clear, Mr. Goodell, if you want Pablo to go away, I know a guy. All I ask is that you let me live stream the Broncos games. Let me show him, Goodell. I think if Pablo Torre really wanted to and put his mind to it, he could get the Epstein list. He'd probably end up face down in a ditch somewhere, but I truly believe he could pull it off. He's an absolute weapon, and he needs to be celebrated as one of the foremost sports journalists of the 21st century. He was gaining a lot of attention for covering the Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson story, and that brought a lot of eyeballs to his podcast. But at the end of the day, that just built him an audience that allowed him to drop a bomb on the NFLPA. If Bill Simmons doesn't publicly call him out for being a muckraker with regards to Belichick, I don't know if Torre gets this story on the Union. Truly a sliding doors moment, to borrow a phrase from the sports guy's lexicon. Thank you, Pablo. Keep doing the Lord's work. And don't forget to subscribe here to That's Good Sports. And if you haven't already, check out some of our other videos here. We do a lot. And none of it could happen without my writing partner, Will Keys, my editing partners, Johnny Barks and Connor Sherrill.
Move your tits! I'm trying to show my graph!